Well, welcome back, friends. We have another game that has been submitted as a request to review. The ranks, for whatever reason, are not being displayed here. I'm sorry that I don't actually know them off the top of my head, and they did not supply them during the process of giving it to me. We should see some borders once I load the game in, so maybe we'll get a little bit of insight on what's going on. One heck of a long game with not too many supply blocks. We have a pretty consistent timing in these two locations. I think there was some correction or something along those lines that may have happened. This this is on the map site Delta LE. And of course, I am unprepared because I'm the worst at this. For a one click. And so we're going to go ahead and jump right into it, and we'll talk about what is going right, what's going wrong, what we did well, and what we didn't do so well. No borders on either player. Guess I will not have any information with regards to the play. It's a 45-minute match. We will try not to make it last 45 minutes the entirety of what's going on. We have Zeraxis is a red Protoss in the left-hand corner. In the lower right-hand corner, we have Redfox in the blue as Zerg. They do know that what each race is, so we're going to go ahead and skip a little bit. Standard play for both players as of so far. Doubles drones. Come on, drones. That's some time. They went triple instead. So that was a slight mistake by the Zerg. So I'm going to go ahead and guess that we are not looking at GMs at this point. We have a forge in the wall and a gateway in the wall, which, again, leads us not to thinking that we are looking at GMs. Not a big deal. Reasons that we go forge. We're going to cannon rush. We are at the point where we're going to get upgrades. We need cannons for defense. And you should already have some gateways or forges up in place if you're in a situation where you're doing that, because you should have gotten your upgrades already. Somewhere around that 5-6 minute mark at the very latest is when you can start doing upgrades from my recollection. Player puts down a cybernetics core, gets a nice little zealot. Gonna plug up the hole, maybe? Who knows? Oh, there it is. He did plug up that hole. Okay, so it is on stop command. You need to make sure you use the hold position. I know it's hidden right back over here. Otherwise, your zealot will run out, fight the lings, and you'll be in lots of trouble. Very, very, very defensive position. It will hold pretty much anything and everything that could possibly be thrown at the Protoss at this point. The only thing that I think could possibly be a problem is if it was a 12 pool with a drone full pull, and just getting in there and absolutely crushing the getting past the zealot, crushing the pylon or the cannon, and getting in and doing a bunch of damage. Chances of them being successful would be very low. It'd be a very tough fight for the Zerg to do that. Other side of the map, the Zerg is getting ready with a couple of queens. Has done an injection. It's a little bit slow. You can see that we have a lot of floating resources already. We're going to probably, if I had to make a guess, we're looking at something like a silver league, maybe a gold league, depending on obviously what locations. Cannons in the mineral line. You only really want to do that if you are in a position that you're going to be getting hit by mutas or drops, or your wall isn't very secure. In this instance, the timing for mutas is not for another about half a minute. It's about the same time you can get Marines in your base, which is about 4:30-ish. It's about the earliest you really have to start like preparing and being ready for it. So we're looking at many resources spent ineffectually. Good job spending your resources, though, Mr. Red. Blue on the other side at this point. And you make sure we're continuing to pump queens, getting additional upgrades, making sure that we have the gas income prepared for the roaches if we're going roaches, which is obviously what we're doing because there's been a roach horn thrown down. Baneling nest if you're going to go the other way, making sure you have enough gas to get the banes, or for your appropriate number of, oh my goodness, it's a lot of links. Your appropriate number, actually that's pretty much what you want if you're going to be playing against a Terran, so that's not, maybe a little high. A page is 24, so 26. It's about right where you want to actually have against Hellions, because you'll be able to speed run at them and capture them. A little late on the speed. So what I'm seeing here on both players' side is that neither team and neither player has a strong build order. Build orders are, I am going to do XYZ at ABC time. Usually, you're going to be seeing something like 3 rack one factory, one supply starport, where your goal is to hit at roughly 5 minutes, maybe 5:15, with 24 Marines or more, and then having 2 medevacs on the follow-up, as well as 2 medevacs with that army, as well as stim and combat shield on the way. You might have 2-on-1, which is stim, 2 medevacs, and 16 Marines that hit at 4:30. And I'm using Terran because Terran is my primary race, and that's where my skill set is primarily at. Idle workers, other things to be aware of. Make sure that since you are Protoss, that you send it back. But the concept is essentially, I want to be able to hit my opponent at a very specific time, so I can do a very specific thing, so that I can win the game or do enough damage that when I fail to win, I'm able to win because I have a good enough follow-up to win the game. Professional build orders usually have trees in their play, but until you get to about Masters, you can do a linear, straightforward, all of my money is always spent build. Meaning that when you have 400 minerals, you build a Nexus or a starport or a command center. If you are Zerg, 300 minerals means that I'm building this specific unit. Or I'm banking for mutas, and I'm going to have 1,000 gas, 1,000 minerals, and that's exactly what you were going to hit. Have the appropriate supply so you can build those 10 mutas. Those are the kind of things what a build order is. Both players are saying, I've gotten dropped, I've gotten mutas, I've gotten... I don't see anything, I haven't had to worry about anything, I got a big enough army that anything they send at me, I'm good to go. That's what both players are kind of thinking right now. They're saying, I'm going to win with capital ships. I'm going to win with, at this point I'm not 100% certain, they're probably going to go late game into Corruptors or Hydra, or maybe Hydras? Maybe Ultras, something along those lines. I don't know for sure. The upgrades have not begun beyond the just movement of the Overlord, the speed here, even though there's been a couple of Evo chambers out. But the point that I'm attempting to articulate is we're missing things because we don't necessarily know exactly what we want to do. We haven't done the strategy part of the game yet. We're doing it live when we should already have a plan in place. Because what will happen is that if you have a plan in place, you'll know, oh, these 4,000 minerals should have gone to all of these XYZ things. And I use XYZ arbitrarily. There's no attachment. You'll know that this Overlord sits here, this Overlord sits here, this Overlord sits here, this Overlord sits down here, this Overlord sits up here, etc. You will have expectations for things, and then you'll only slightly tweak what you're doing. So, oh, you cleared these rocks. Why are we clearing these rocks? Where's our creep spread? Why is it's going up this route through the middle here? It's not really going up this route very effectively. Am I in a cadence where I'm doing things? So for Zerg, what you want to do is you want to get in a cadence. What I mean by that is inject, build units, manage army. Spread creep, build units, manage army. And you want to get in that pace where you just go dot, 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 and you go back to your queens, right? So you are constantly doing the things that you want to be doing versus kind of hanging out. So we kind of look at each player's vision. This queen has a ton of energy. Why didn't he just queue up all the injects right into this? And we are watching his camera, by the way, at this point. Why didn't he queue up a whole bunch of injects into this hatchery? He doesn't have other queens to do any kind of hey, you're out of health. Transfuse, that's what I was looking for. You don't have your gas is populated, or your gases are populated. You have all of your units under production. Your hotkey includes one building for your army here. You have only the layer right here, which you should have all of your hatches on the same hotkey, so that way you can build all of your army off the same hotkey and be able to know how many larvae you have, because all the hatcheries, when you click whatever that hotkey is, hit select, which is S for the default, and a grid, I think it's Q. And then you might even have adjusted it. A lot of players have been playing the game for a long time. But you get all your larvae, and then you can hold down a character to build whatever units you're looking for. And there's the Hydras that we kind of talked about. That way you know that how many larvae you have left over and how much your injects are going, and if you're actually spending your larvae. Right now, if we look at how many larvae this Zerg has, they have 28 larvae. They have 6,000 minerals and 500 gas. Imagine if all of those larvae became hydras. It wouldn't be all, right? The numbers don't work out properly. But if you had that many more hydras with this army, it's a heck of a lot scarier, and you'd still have bank. You could grab 2 or 3 other bases at this point. You never want to move out with your hydras off of creep if you don't have the 2 upgrades attached to them. In particular, you want to have speed above both, if you're leaving your base, range as a more of a defensive, and you usually build your hydras to augment your queens because you've seen some kind of sky movement, or you are going to go lurkers and you know that you want to get those hydras. So kind of things to be paying attention to and improve upon. Our Protoss on the other side has gotten a 3rd base. Oh, big army fight. This was a good call. Pull back, but he did pull back from a direction that he hasn't gone before. So I'm going to drop this back just a couple of seconds just so we can get to the beginning of it. I didn't actually expect him to attack like that. All right, so we're going to look at it. So positions of the army, right? We have Lings in front. That's perfectly fine. Roach it, but they will get eaten up if they run into units that eat them up. So Storm, Zealots, Archons. So you might want to keep them back and send your roaches in first. Unless you know there's immortals and you send your lings in first, right? It's better to know what your opponent's doing. Spawn a changeling, send it in. That way you know, hey, their army is here or their army is here. Their composition is 10 Tempests at this point, and they're going massive Tempests. You don't know what bases they have. You went here not knowing. You could have taken one Ling, shift-queued it around the edge of the map, clicked a different Ling, and shift-queued it around the edge of the map, and you would be able to know that he doesn't have this base, but has this base. So that way, you can set up a run-by right here and say, take your army and attack from this side. So that when he goes to defend over here, you take this group, you literally go, whoop, and you A-click into his base, or you right-click, like here, right? Just right-click, just move. If they have defenses, you go and you like glance over and you can see that they're all like clumped up right here, not doing anything. You just come over here, grab it, and have it attack over on this side or pull it back. Make sure they don't get this expansion. And this army, you just pull around and you hang out with it. Over here, you push and then come back. You push and come back. You just make sure that you could get that run by, do a lot of damage and stuff like that. This is what a multi-prong attack is. This is a skill check when you get to about Diamond Masters League. Just something, that's how you do it, at least initially learning. When you get to a higher level, it gets more complicated. Make sure you are focusing on specific things to improve your gameplay. In this instance, if I was the Zerg, I'd be focusing on making sure I spend my money. I don't care what this 7,770 minerals goes to. Just make sure you spend all of it. You should not be able to be supply capped. You should have basically every base on the map. You should be able to have a drone count of about 80 or so, which you're only at 60. You should have plenty of queens roaming around. One queen for your creep, and it looks like, 2 queens for creep, and then a couple others that are floating, and then 1 per base, and you don't even have a second one on this base. There's the double one that's there. I like to set all my queens on the same hotkey. That is for my group that's spreading creep and doing transfuses. And the other one I put on another hotkey. I'm still learning how to do this. This is one of the things I'm like working on when I play Zerg, is to have all of my other queens that I'm going to do inject on another one, so I can quickly smash the spacebar and do injects across the board with all of them. That's how the professionals do it. There's other ways to do it, like camera hotkeys, locations where you'll go F1, bot, F2, F3, F4, F5, and you set your camera hotkeys to be F1, F2, F3, F4, so on and so forth. The reason you do the space is because it's always going to be an active base, and you don't have to reset those camera locations every time you expand bases, and it gets really cumbersome when you get out to like 10 bases and stuff like that. So that's why a lot of players end up using that spacebar methodology, and they switch from the alert to their base rotation on that. That being said, you have tons and tons of larvae, 40 larvae. You need to spend that. Just spend it. Fight going on the other side of the map. You can see that he kind of like moved in versus just A-clicking. In this kind of situation, you want to A-click like the shield batteries down, and then you want to kill the cannons or something along those lines, versus trying to kill the Nexi. The army was big enough that he could have probably killed all of the stuff that was here, and still gotten out with some units. It's not necessarily required to kill the Nexus, because if you run away and come back, you've made them spend several thousand resources on either preparing the defenses again or not. That being said, Hydras is a good choice. Lings not so much. Corruptors and is the true counter here. You need a lot of Corruptors to do that. But this is going to be really, really painful to deal with. The Queens are going to go down. Can't really get into range. 7 Hydras isn't enough. You have so much larva. And you didn't utilize it all into Hydras. It should have been 100% Hydras or Corruptors. And those Lings you should have been using across the map the whole game. Again, big resources hanging out. He did a good job of pulling back, or the workers ran over here, but hasn't repositioned them into this base. So this guy knows that there's a base down there, and he's just going to kill the workers as they run over here while he gets into your main and causes problems. We're going to speed up a little bit. You want to take your Lings and pressure across the map while this is going on. You just literally want all of your Lings, whatever extra larva you can't spend on gas, just literally send them to the other side and attack. I think that this pullback was unnecessary. I think that the reinforcements should have come, and the game could have ended right then and there, because you just kill off the tech, which is placed inside of the main. And obviously, there's no injects going on. We're going to go a little bit faster. Make sure you do those kind of things that you expect. Across the board, you just need to be making sure that you have everything busy, and make sure that you have enough workers across the board and you have all of the bases saturated. And then because you are Zerg, you need to inject. If you are a Protoss, you need to, at this point, you need a lot more production facilities. You're looking at 4K of each resource basically hanging out. 4K, I do see that you built a lot of additional production in these warp gates, but unfortunately, you're not going to be able to get through that bank very effectively with just that. You need, and you want higher tech. So either get your Templars and stuff like that. Oh, look at that. You're doing it already. Perfect. You have idle workers. F1 is great. They're over here attacking. Nothing crazy. Lurkers. Lurkers at, I would imagine roughly the skill level is pretty advanced. I like the shield batteries defense at the top. There's no vision. So these Lurkers will eventually kill this base if they are close enough. It doesn't appear like they are. Not a bad choice. I mean, there was cannons and stuff. They did a good job of cleaning up. Creep. More than one creep tumor per lane. That's why you have creep queens. That's why you have that hotkey for them. The army is being reproduced, but not hotkeyed back in. Make sure you hotkey appropriately as you put the eggs together. That's the big difference between Zerg, Terran, and Protoss. Terran and Protoss, they aren't able to put their army on their hotkeys until after the unit's produced. As Zerg, as soon as you get that egg out, get that on that hotkey so you can get your army together really fast, really easily, and it's all good to go. This is quite amusing, where we have a nice little corridor for all the units, and then a nice chokes for his own units to protect his 2 bases on the outskirts. If I was a Zerg and I saw this, I would absolutely be abusing either edge as best I can to force my opponent to run through those chokes, and then when they're down here in the choke on the other side, I would just get in there and make it so that they can only fight a couple of wide because they have choked themselves off and caused a lot of headaches. Upgrades are looking really great at this point. Obviously a little bit late. We're at the 24-minute mark, but the concept is good. Both players are doing them. Having all of the upgrades is very, very useful, assuming that you're going to use it. It still needs that range. And then we have range that is also missing. Those are actually super important for Hydras. You definitely want that. Cycles and Vipers, when I would suggest just having more units that are easier to control is probably a better choice, unless you are really, really confident with your Viper usage, which as myself as a Diamond player, I am not very confident using Vipers and using that extra hotkey. So if you watch me play, you will not see me put down many Vipers, if any. You might see it if I'm in a situation where it's starting to get desperate or something along those lines. Obviously, Tempests are very good at long distance everything. Brood Lords can't shoot up. This is what I was saying. Counterattack with stuff where you can, with the units you're able. And then the reinforcements combined with the pullback is going to push this away. But you can see you've given yourself a ton of time to be able to get up more Hydras and a whole bunch of Spire units, which you did not, unfortunately, have the ability to do. You just built a bunch of Lings. Again, not a bad choice, but having the proper units to counter the army that your opponent's having is going to be very useful. When you lose a base, re-expand. You're Zerg. You have the money, you have the drone count. Go ahead and re-expand. And honestly, build more drones back up. Make sure you don't lose larva, losing it off of your creep falling off. I like to have a creep tumor somewhere inside of my mineral line somewhere so that I am able to not lose buildings that are hanging out, specifically the Ultra Den. And obviously, if you're running into a player that's building Tempests basically exclusively, Ultras, as long as you're running them around where they are and running them away from the Tempests, they're very good units for what's going on. But otherwise, you don't really want to build Ultras. You want to be building Hydras, Corruptors, and you're literally just killing off your opponent. Lurkers is another high-tech unit. If you don't know how to do it, don't use them. If you know how to do them, awesome. Make sure that you are... Nice, we got a Tempest there, but we have an entire slew of them. Has complete vision of what's going on. Make sure you have a vision unit, a overseer with your army, just at least one. You know, that's a good way to give yourself. I like the repositioning there. Still going after this Nexus instead of killing off the army. You want to make sure your opponent, you just kill it off, right? You want to force them to rebuild. Remember that they have to build additional production to rebuild. You have hatcheries. Don't have to worry about that. As a Protoss, again, if you're starting to get up there on resources, if you are near cap, increase your production until you can remax immediately. I think the magic number for your Sky stuff is about 6. I wouldn't build any more than that. Robo, it's about the same. Gateway count upward, I wouldn't go any further than about 20. That's probably the high end. Also, I like the red is stealing bases across the other side of the map. But I think that it would have been a better choice to clear up creep and take the map portion that is closer to his main, giving him more protection for run-bys and interesting things coming across. As we talked before, Lurkers are more tech. You have to be very on top of it. There's a lot more to manage. I do appreciate the fact that Red is not using F2 because he has several observers just hanging out. They're not in observer mode, surveillance mode, and they are still being very useful and helpful. This is a good cleanup. This is great. You basically are threatening. Don't come defend this. I got enough corruptors to deal with you. You're going to lose your Spire, unfortunately, which is not great. And then you have this force. And you're slowly pushing back on the bases and things. It's killing a bunch of overlords, which is going to supply cap you here shortly. Continuously just knocking out important things. Losing another. The Greater Spire is much worse, obviously. It takes a long time to get. It's very expensive, so on and so forth. Blue on the other side is going through and doing a base race. Don't forget to use your corruptors and kill all of the Tempests you can get your hands on. This is there is a lot of static defenses from the red. This is going to be very challenging to get through eventually. And then, oh my goodness, red has completely reset blue's tech. We have a situation where basically blue has to finish the game by killing all the buildings and doing so in a way that makes it so that he can get through the handful of Tempests that are at home while not losing the last bit he has on the other side of the map. Runs into defensive structures and decides to attack a Nexus versus cleaning up the army. Just letting your units F2 into stuff, like literally just a click in space, not on specific units, is going to be a good way to make it so that you do a lot more damage there, blue. This is a very good game, do not get me wrong. But at this point, it is foregone conclusion. If I was in blue shoes, I would have already left. I would have probably left right around the time where I saw that he had the defensive units at home, and I was getting attacked at the same time. If I had played it that late, obviously we're in a really late game situation, so it's a very different interaction. That being said, you ended the game with 4,000 minerals and 700 gas, and your opponent, they were at one point maxed out, and you obviously supply cap them, so I can't give them too much. Sorry, red can't get too much flack for it. With blue, you have a ton of larva. You had the tech buildings, and you just didn't do it. And it's because, in my opinion, primarily you didn't use hotkeys to grab all of your hatcheries on one thing. So that way you could select all your larvae at the same time. You went to each hatchery and had to select, rebuild every time. And that made it so you were struggling to be as fast as you needed to be. Other things of note, this is an interesting Nexus. Placing down Nexus is not necessarily the right play here. I probably wouldn't have done that. You see that we have places that are not mined out. We have map portions that are all over the place. I get that you wanted to make it so it's harder for your opponent to kill you, buying you time. Just building literal walls. So if this had been right here with a cannon, shield battery, a couple of pylons around it, couple of pylons around it, that would be really, 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 really hard to kill this Nexus, because those things would have been there defending it, and they wouldn't have been able to get there. That being said, you might want to sneak out a probe later and try and recapture a base or hide it in the corner or something along those lines. Props to both players for doing some very interesting things, doing a good job of pulling back once they get into a situation they're not comfortable with, making sure that they start to ramp up their production and things. I think the neck size in the main is really funny. I probably would have suggested putting some more starports versus these down, making and more gates. I think there was a total of something like 12, maybe 15. Whenever I build a base, I like to add 2 to 3 gates. If I'm going to go a lot of ground, and if I'm going air, I'll add a starport. Or a robo, and I'll depending on obviously which kind of ground and all that kind of stuff. You basically, as you build more bases, you need more production in order to spend your resources, and you'll remax very fast. And you just can literally F2 a move at your opponent with those kind of armies until you get to the upper reaches, at which point you start learning how to micro. Or if you run into tanks or something, you just attack somewhere else, or instead of just a moving into the door, you like send them over here, and then you go up the ramp with whatever army you have. This is harkens back to the game where I was casting the Hydra player versus the Terran, who basically hunkered down with a bunch of tanks, made a very small entrance for themselves, and eventually the Zerg burned out because they just kept sending Hydras, but they didn't have vision of the tanks, and they didn't kill any of the tanks. They just kind of got in the choke, and then they stood there and took tank shots. And then they would run up again with another chunk, and then they'd get chunked out over and over and over again and get like maybe one tank for 100 Hydra. Or it wasn't 100, but 40 or 50 Hydras, which is really, really rough to deal with. And then, of course, not switching, making sure you don't switch, make sure you switch your tech appropriately. When you see all Tempests, all Corruptors, all Hydras, those are only units you build unless you have Lings that you're going to, once they're built, you have them A move at the bases that you know that they have, or bases that you, to try and curtail their income. Obviously, that's when you don't have enough gas. As for the Protoss, things to be cognizant of, using your observers a little bit better, right? Tempests have a ridiculous long range of 10. Their vision, 14 in the there it is, 14. That's air tech, and ground is 10. But their vision is not that far. They cannot see all the way to the edge. If I go into the wiki, I'm sure I could look it up. But I just want you to be cognizant that you were limiting yourself on what your units were able to do, except for the defense. And then making sure that you get your upgrades, because you want to make sure that you do that as early as, not necessarily as early as possible, but you want to make sure that your upgrades were late, is what I'm trying to articulate. But you did do a good job of getting your upgrades eventually, and that goes the same for the Zerg player. You did a really good job of getting your upgrades eventually, with regards to the units that you were focusing, Hydras, Lurkers. You missed one Hydra upgrade. That happens, but range is super important. Really painful to not have that. And then you went Ultra and started getting melees, and then realized that you were getting against Tempest, and you decided to abandon that path. Not a bad choice. No shade on that decision. I like it. If you wanted to continue to go down the Ultras, just make sure you attack in a direction. So like when I was talking about sending Ultras over here, and then pulling back as soon as the Tempests get close. Tempests are super slow. Use your mobility to your advantage. Again, these players are not, I'm not like, they're GMs, right? We know that they're not at that level of skill, but they have shown that they have a lot of glimmering pieces of hope. They have really good ideas in certain situations. They are doing some very interesting things that when they learn more about the game, that they will realize or understand why building walls of Nexi isn't necessarily the strongest of plays. Making sure you don't have Artosis pylons. I see that all over the place with this player. They did a really good job with that. Making sure that they get their upgrades on upgrades. They did that. Like they just need to tighten up and realize that time is a resource, and you should have a plan when you go into the game. And that goes for both players, so that you don't get in a situation where you have a massive 6,000 mineral bank in the first, 8 minutes. And on the other side, having a disproportionate bank where you had about 500 minerals, about 1,000 or 1,500 gas, / they didn't have like enough production to spend all the resources eventually. So those kind of plans in place and making sure you're spending your money and doing appropriate things is very helpful as well. And I can see you went down the Twilight Council path, but you didn't build any Twilight units. So just other things to be aware of. If you're going to build ground, build ground. If you're going to go air, go air. With the exception, and if you are trying to do mixed, which is a good idea, it is a good idea. Pick either zealots or stalkers and get the appropriate upgrade for it. Charge lots are pretty brain dead, and they're really good at doing stuff like run bys. So what you do is you warp in 12 zealots. You wait until they're finished. Once they're finished, you box them. You say A, click the corner, holding shift, A, click the corner, A, click the corner, and then holding A the whole time, right? And then what'll happen is your zealots, those 12 zealots, you don't have to deal with them in your army at all. You don't have to control them. You just let them do their thing. They run down here, then they run over here. They attack anything that's here. If there is nothing here, they'll go up here. You just click like 4 or 5 times. You go, so you go that, click, 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 and then you go to your regular army that you have hotkeyed, and you manage that army appropriately. And that way you have run-bys that are very painful for your opponents to deal with, very easy for you to make, very quick to produce, very inexpensive, and consumes a lot of your resources that you have over here. Again, there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of refinement that can be done, and everybody has those. It's just a question of the scale that will occur. If you clean up both players, right, both the Zerg and the Protoss, if you clean up your early game a lot, you'll see yourself probably jump a league or two very quickly. If you clean up how you're spending your resources, you'll also jump up a league or two. That being said, once you start to get to the diamond area, you're going to kind of converge, and you need to get both of those things before you'll make it to up to closer to masters. And then, of course, positioning and things like that come into effect, but don't worry about that so much until you get into those upper ranks near those diamond-ish levels. But thank you for the submission. I appreciate it greatly, and I hope that you were able to learn some things, and of course that you enjoyed me giving you some feedback. And I actually, before I leave you, I'm going to go see how many gates we got to. 9 warp gates, and never more than 4 stargates. So the Zerg's Protoss, the Protoss's production, just not there. The Zerg just needed to hotkey all of its army together to be able to produce everything appropriately. Alrighty, see you later. See you next time.